It seems that everybody has a rental property. Everyone is talking about rental property and that you could join this FIRE club, financially independent, retire early. That FIRE club, they want to join it and they do that through these properties. It must be that 50% of all the homes owned in most cities are owned by renters. Or is it? Now, these are very, very interesting questions. Now, I saw some articles today. I ask you a couple questions. Number one, who owns a rental? What type of person would own a rental? I want you to think about that question. Number two, how much do you think this problem is affecting us? So if you're going to think of a number, a percentage in your brain of how much of the home inventory is owned by investors, what would you guess? Would you say it was 10%, 20%, 30%? Like, what do you think would be that percentage? Think of that as we're going to go into this first article here. Investors make up 20 to 30% of homeowners in some provinces, according to Statistics Canada. Investors in British Columbia came in at 23.3%, followed by 20% in Manitoba. So they're saying this big headlines like shock and awe. Can you believe that 20% of people? Okay. 20% to 30%. Unbelievable, right? They're shocked by that. Let's check this one out on City News. This is in Ottawa. More than 20% of homeowners in Ontario were investors, according to this article. Condo apartments were used as an investment more often than homes. Guys, that's not a real big shock, is it? Because the average home where we live was 1.6 million, where you could get into a condo for 500,000. So of course, those mom and pop investors want to buy something that is affordable. Not everybody can go and buy these big homes, right? That's not like a real surprise, I don't think. Do you think so? I don't think so. If we go back to the article here, condo apartments were used as investments more often than homes, with Ontario alone seeing its highest condo apartments used as investments at 41%. So they're saying this is the shocking number, 41%. New Statistics Canada data shows investors made up almost 1/3 of homeowners in some provinces in 2020. Please remember these numbers. 1/3. Shocking. The data agency says investors made up 31% of Nova Scotia homeowners. 31% there, 33% in the other place. But notice it says investors in British Columbia were 23%, 20% in Manitoba, 20% in Ontario. Please, please, please remember these numbers, okay? Because we're going to come back to this. I want to show you Canada and the United States home ownership rate. Go to Trading Economics and we're going to look at these numbers. Notice that this chart goes back a long way to before 2000. Everything fluctuates. The highest it got was 68%, and that was like 2019, 60%. But understand what that means now that 32% is rentals, and everywhere else for all the other years, that was the highest, but it always went between 63% and 68%. If we look at the United States, they also fluctuated by time. Their chart goes back even farther, 1960 or something like that on the chart. If we go all the way back, it bounces between 63% and the peak was 63 to 69%. And of course, it ebbs and flows. Every single month, there's a different number. But notice that it's always in the mid 60s, always, which means that there's always, for decades and decades and decades and decades, 35%. Always. So take a look at that again. It always floats between 63 and 69%. That is for the United States. The Canadian chart always floating in that same range. And this is the takeaway from this. They were saying these are shocking numbers. The fact that there is 35% rentals in the market. Shocking. But if we go back to the article that they were talking about here, they were saying, okay, 31% Nova Scotia, so that's about bang on the decades and decades old average. 29% New Brunswick. Wow, we're short rentals there. And look at the hottest markets. British Columbia coming in only at 23%. And then in Ontario and Manitoba, 20%. So guys, in the hottest markets in Toronto and in Vancouver, we're only 20% is what they're saying is rental properties. We should be historically, we saw back into the mid 60s, we should be at 35%. So what does that tell you? We are short. We have what, 40% less rentals than we need? And now the second question that I had asked you was, who do you think owns rentals? So people often will mention that, well, this is a different type of rental. This is a rental versus an investment rental. Here's the news flash. All rentals are investments. All of them. There is no buyer that buys these units just for goodwill and just wants to rent out hundreds of units for below market rent. That doesn't happen. Everyone is doing it in order to make a couple dollars. Now, this is not greedy landlords that are out there. These are a lot of mom and pops who have saved up for 20 years and bought one condo and tried to grow themselves that way. We do a lot with clients that are trying to buy a unit for their children that are very, very young. And they said, we can foresee 10 years from now, they won't have an opportunity to buy it. So it's not all these greedy landlords. And there is a lot of people. Look at historically, it's always sitting around 40%, 35% of the population don't even want a home. They want to be in a rental. And this has been the way since the mid 60s. When homes were a lot cheaper, there were still people that were renting. So this is what I'm trying to say is it's not always evil landlords. We need these units. Not everybody wants to buy a house. Some of them want to move around, different jobs, different family situations. It's all up to them. We need choice in the market. At the end of the road, though, we're looking at these articles, and when they're talking about, oh, shock and awe, 20% were investment rentals. Well, I'm sorry, they're all investment, number one. Number two, you're making my point for me. We are shockingly behind the number of properties that we need. In Canada, we are short about 1 million properties. In the United States, they're between 5 and 6 million. And the way that Canada is bringing in 500,000 new immigrants and refugees last year, and they want to keep that pace. Remember, they're not building more highways, they're not building more houses, they're not building more hospitals, and they're just packing in millions of more people. We can see where this is going to end, right? Home prices are going to be going up if they don't keep raising the rates. Remember, there is this cross current thing that's happening because there's huge pressure on the demand side to get housing, but those interest rates are pulling it down at the same time. So we have to balance those two out. So it's funny to me when they look at these articles because they're really trying to get you to click on something and they don't have the whole story in front of you. I still think that real estate is the most tax favored asset class that we've ever had. If you read the tax codes, it's absolutely fantastic. We were at the lowest rates in 5,000 years of recorded history. So historically, we still are at very, very low interest rates. Anyway, you guys, we have a lot of information for you. We got courses available for you to help you on this. Please go and look at my top 10 books that I recommend. And if this has given you any value whatsoever, please subscribe. Please tell your friends about us. We'd really appreciate it. And I'll talk to you on the next video.